East of Madagascar, in the Indian Ocean, lies a remote string of islands called St. Brandon. But this place is not your typical atoll. There are multiple recent shipwrecks all across the island with many controversies. There's even a completely unknown shipwreck that no one can seem to figure out. There's a small village of people all crammed onto one of the tiny islands. There are islands with millions of birds and remains of an old settlement. In this video, we are going to explore all of these things, try to get to the bottom of these shipwrecks, and see what else we can find out about this place. Let's explore. Let's get oriented a bit here. So, St. Brandon is actually part of the country of Mauritius. Almost the entire population of Mauritius, about 1.2 million people, live on the main island. However, about 40 to 60 people do live up on St. Brandon. Almost all of them on this tiny village up here, and most of those people work as fishermen. St. Brandon is also not an easy place to get to. There are some videos on YouTube of people coming up to St. Brandon and exploring, parasailing, or fishing, or scuba diving, but it's not easily accessible to the public. I was looking at one website that said it costed tens of thousands of dollars for a private expedition up here, and even that was unavailable. Most of these islands are so small anyway that there's no room for a plane to land, so you basically have to take a boat all the way up here from the main island of Mauritius. And this place is pretty dang far. It's over 400 kilometers away. So it'd be really hard to take your small fishing boat up here. You gotta plan out a little bit more to get all the way up to St. Brandon. There's about 40 islands here, but some people would call them shoals because a lot of them are just little sandy shores. This one up here is Albatross Island, and Albatross Island has a lot of history with birds. There's also this one that's super blurry in Google Maps, but they just call it North Island. The island that most people live on is called Raphael Island. Coco Island is down in the south. And then my personal favorite is Frigate Island here, which I'm wondering if it's named after the same bird, the frigate bird that we looked at in the video about McKean Island. The first mystery I wanted to figure out was the random boat that's on Frigate Island over here. Now, one of you commented about this, and that's what led me to look into this place. So when I first zoomed in as far as I could to see what it's like, it looked like some boat of some sort. So I went to the Wikipedia page, searched frigate on the section about shipwrecks, and there were two shipwrecks back in 1845 and 1850. So it's possible that it's that. We'll have to look at some historical imagery and other imaging services to see if they also show this shipwreck on there. So I'm on Google Earth, and it says the imagery date for this particular spot is June 22nd of 2021. So maybe that gives us some hints. There also is no historical imagery of this place, so that's our only shot for this website. So I went to that same island on Map Carta, look at the exact same spot, but I don't see that ship. However, one thing I do see that's similar is this little structure that's pointing straight northeast. If you go on Google Maps right next to that boat, you can also see the same thing. So there clearly is something there, but this boat is new, or at some point was taken away from this area. So it's probably not those ships from the 1850s. I then went to this website, St. Brandon Conservation Trust, and it's actually a really good source for a lot of the shipwrecks and news about St. Brandon. They talk about the most recent shipwreck in 2022, a Taiwanese fishing vessel. There's a bunch of others that also shipwrecked. One that was interesting was on June 8th of 2021, a fishing vessel called the Seamaster remained stuck on the reef. June 8th of 2021 kind of fits in our time frame of June of 2021 when this image was taken. In fact, this satellite picture was only taken 2 weeks after that article dropped. And on Wikipedia, this boat is listed June 5th of 2021, about 3 weeks before that imagery. The FV Seamaster, which was that same one from that article, shipwrecked on the Albatross Island. That does throw a wrench in things because this is not Albatross Island. This is Frigate Island. Albatross Island is far up here, so it's not the same location. That's kind of leaving me doubts, but let me see if at least we can see a picture of that FV Seamaster. So I found this article listed sinking of the FV Seamaster on the reefs of St. Brandon on June 8th of 2021, so about 2 weeks before that. And it talks about the fuel pumping operation. Basically, they're trying to get fuel out of these boats whenever they shipwreck, because if the boat ends up breaking or the fuel leaks out, it's cause a huge ecological disaster. Same thing about a lot of the fishing baits as well. If that stays on the boat for a long time and then not all spills out at once, it can also cause an ecological disaster. So it's important to get the fuel out and get the ship into a safe location. I'm not sure if the boat that's pictured in this image is the FV Seamaster, but if it is, the bottom is blue, which is different than here, which is more red. And now that I'm looking at this a little closer, it does kind of look like an upside down boat. So it's possible that maybe they towed the FV Seamaster from Albatross Island in those 2 weeks down to Frigate Island for some reason, maybe to move it to another location later, and is somehow capsized on the way, and it's just like this. But the interesting thing is, I searched the Seamaster on a bunch of different websites. I found this website called Vessel Finder. It lists the overall length as 22 meters, and I also found this website, vesseltracker.com, with a length of 15 meters and a width of 5. So it's somewhere between 15 to 22 meters and around 5 meters wide. So when I come back to measure this, I'm really trying to get the right proportions, and it says about 22 meters. And when we look at width, it's about 6 meters. So that really does fit with those other websites we were looking at. It's possible that a lot of fishing boats are this same length and width, so this could be just a generic fishing vessel, but it does seem weird that around 2 weeks after that shipwreck incident, there's a boat that shows up around the exact same size in a nearby island. I searched all around. I could not find any aerial photos of Frigate Island specifically. Annoyingly, there's another island with the same name in the Seychelles that almost always pops up when you search. But I did find this website, the 13 Islands of St. Brandon, that does show a lot of pictures of St. Brandon in general. There are some boats that look similar to what we see on Frigate Island. Like this one, for example. It's not in the right spot, but if you look at the bottom of it, it kind of does have that same look. That red look, just like this one, but I don't think that's the same exact one. I'm guessing it's some boat kind of like this, but maybe a bit bigger. Just a simple fishing boat that flipped over near that place. Wasn't significant enough to have a whole article written about it. I also found this quote from the St. Brandon Conservation Trust website. Boats are wrecked in St. Brandon. 99% of people don't care. It's far from the eyes of the government. The boats will remain on the reefs like many others. It sounds like there is some frustration with people about boats being shipwrecked here all the time and people not being swift enough to get the boats out of there. So this could be one of those ships that just no one really talks about, not significant enough to make a whole article about, and it's just gonna be there until someone moves it. So I think the two most likely things that this is that FV Seamaster was either wrongly recorded as crashing at Albatross Island when in fact it was Frigate Island, or that's just some unknown, unnamed, smaller fishing vessel that didn't have any significance and no one really cared to report. Or who knows, this could be something completely else that I am just completely oblivious to. Another big shipwreck that occurred was on December 5th of 2022, Taiwanese fishing vessel ran aground in the south part of St. Brandon. This is 70 tons of diesel and 20 tons of rotting fish bait gradually flowed into the lagoon and poisoned flora and fauna. On St. Brandon Conservation Trust, there's a lot of different articles about it. This is what that ship looks like. And there were articles as this was happening. A lot of people were really concerned that the fuel and the fish bait that was on this was going to completely destroy the area around it. And it was a big controversy at the time. I don't know enough about it, so I don't want to speak any more about it. The interesting thing is, if you go on Apple Maps, if you zoom into this bottom part of the reef way down here, you can actually see that exact fishing vessel that's sitting there. You can see what appears to be something leaking out of it, or maybe it's just some waves to the right side of it, but it is pretty interesting that you can see this. There's been plenty of examples in the last 15 years of a bunch of vessels running aground on St. Brandon and breaking into pieces or leaking fuel everywhere. Even on this website, there's a bunch of articles about shipwrecks that are just still chilling there to this day. So I hope one day this can be figured out and we could prevent this from happening, but I don't know exactly how to do that. On Google Maps, there's a whole bunch more shipwrecks as well. In the very, very bottom left corner, there's another one here. I'm not sure exactly what ship that is. Also, if you look up YouTube videos of St. Brandon, there's people like parasailing past these shipwrecks all the time, showing multiple different ones throughout this entire area. So the next thing I wanted to explore is this Albatross Island up here, where apparently that FV Seamaster ran aground. There is a boat in the top left part of this island. That also could be the FV Seamaster. The length and width also fit, but this could be also a boat just coming up to the island just for fun as well. When you zoom in really far on Albatross Island, there's a couple little structures way up in the north, plus there's a bunch of paths through it. So I wanted to explore what was on this Albatross Island. I was reading this website from Mauritius Attractions, and it said the settlement in Albatross was abandoned in 1988. So I just watched a YouTube video about conservation efforts here at Albatross Island and across all of St. Brandon. And this place is very, very, very important for bird life and endangered turtle species. So apparently millions of birds come to this area to lay eggs and as a nice safe haven to fly around to these other islands, and allowing these other islands to be inhabited with bird species gives them a nice place to rest. Also, a lot of the birds produce guano, which actually helps the environment a lot by providing nutrients to the water, the reefs around here, and the island itself. But apparently some of the islands have been taken over by rats, which eat all of the bird eggs, which have completely destroyed the bird population on some of these islands. So a lot of efforts are being made to try to restore that. This is one of the sea turtles that's super endangered, but found on St. Brandon. I just think this thing is so cute. It's also the green sea turtle that's found around this area. So I hope we can protect St. Brandon. When I first looked into this place, I was very surprised that anyone lived here, because a lot of these islands are so tiny. But there's actually a decent amount of people here. There's like 60 people that live here most of the time of the year, almost all of them up here in this Raphael Island, which I'll show you pictures of soon. But you can see a lot of activity around here. Here's a boat that's driving around. You can see all their houses. There's smaller boats over here. That's where about 40 of the people of the town live, but apparently there's other people on other islands around here. You can see on this little island, there's a couple little huts. And then coming down to the south in Coco Island and South Island, there's also little buildings around here, which a lot of the YouTube videos about St. Brandon come down to these Coco and South Islands to look around and do a lot of the research. This is the island where the radio group 3B7A Expedition went to and did all of their ham radio stuff, which I'm not super familiar with, but a lot of you told me about when I made my video about Bouvet Island. So here's a picture from that ham radio expedition website. This is on either Coco Island or South Island. Those are those little houses you can see here, I believe. And they're setting up all their communications towers. I think it'd be so fun to come to this island and stay here. They also have a bunch more pictures of their trip. Here's a better picture of what the island looks like from above. You can see a lot of those upside down boats, and it looks kind of similar to that one earlier. This one took a lot of pictures of the wildlife here. Here's some of those super tiny turtles. There's some birds and looks like a little rabbit on the island. I don't know if that is native to the island. Bunch of other birds. Oh, this is cute. There's a little baby bird right here. So here's a kind of aerial photo of Raphael Island. You can see that it does look a little different than Google Maps. It seems like maybe they added buildings or they built new stuff. But it seems like the island is pretty much run by this one company, the Raphael Fishing Company, which employs about 40 people to work on this island and fish almost year round. So it doesn't seem like the people that live here all the time, but I'm not 100% sure about that. There's some other pictures on Wikipedia showing Raphael Island, and it looks pretty surreal from down here. I wonder what it's like to live in this area on this small little island. I would love to be able to interview someone that lives here or possibly visit one day. If you see this tower right here, there's a POV video of someone climbing up it where you can see 360 degrees around this island. I highly recommend you watch that if you're interested in seeing what this island looks like. They even have room for a graveyard on this place. Honestly, as cramped as they are over here, there is actually a decent amount of room in the backside of the island. But yes, most of the people that live here are fishermen. So I hope you learned something about St. Brandon. I definitely did learn a lot researching this video. I'm not an expert at this place or Mauritius by any means. This was all stuff I looked up online and wanted to learn more about myself and share with you guys. So if you like this video, you might like this video in the bottom left corner. Thank you for watching.